And I started doing 3 episodes every single day. You know how many downloads he gets right now, Jeremy?
I have no idea.
700,000 a week.
Wow.
700,000 downloads a week. Okay, good. So I can tell you, because I talk a lot about podcasts. I don't give people the exact strategies or the step-by-step, because I'm a really random guy, Jeremy. Like, I have to bring people over the years. Right now we have 75 staff in my organization at AGM, and we've been growing like crazy. I have a lot of people that put order because I don't put order myself. So I just do. I am just creating and producing, and that's how I operate. So I tell people, look, yes, when it comes to advertising on social media, I do give them roadmaps and step-by-steps. But on podcasts, I just say, hey, you guys got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it. Why do you got to do it? Because, hey, it's like, imagine going back to 1978 and 97.7 FM station comes to you and tells you, look, I decided to give you an entire station to broadcast to the country. And you don't have to pay a single penny. Podcasting is the same thing. You've been gifted a 97.7 FM station in which you can broadcast to the world. And sometimes people don't understand that, and we take it for granted that this is the world that we live in right now that has presented all these opportunities. And you have something called Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts and Spotify, and you have all these places that people are consuming this 97.7 FM station on radio at a massive scale, and it becomes an opportunity. So I tell them that I found an easy road. I selected an app, which I'm sure you've heard about, called Anchor. And that's what I created. That's what I use for my own podcast. And I even got, our friend, Dr. Eric Berg. Right? So Dr. Berg, this is something that you might not know about it, Jeremy, but I think it was about 2 years ago only that I talked to him and I said, I'm going to create a podcast for you. Don't worry about it. I know you're busy. You don't have to do the podcast yourself. I mean, ideally down the line, we can get you to do individual podcast episodes meant for podcasts, but I'm going to just use your existing content. And I created an account. I went to anchor.fm and I set it up with his information. I found a thumbnail, which I've updated a couple times along the way. And I started extracting the audio from his videos. He has 3,000 videos on YouTube. So I extracted the audio. I used that as a subject line, and I add a little description. And I started uploading those videos, the audio clips, every single day. Very simple. Right now, I think the platforms have improved quite a bit. You can upload a link to a YouTube video, and it extracts the actual audio. Simple stuff. So I started doing that 2.5 years ago, maybe even 2 years ago only, and I started doing 3 episodes every single day. You know how many downloads he gets right now, Jeremy?
I have no idea.
700,000 a week. Wow. 700,000 downloads a week. And he's never done a podcast for the platform. It's just been, we're like utilizing the existing thing that he has going on already. So we're doing 2.5 million to 3 million downloads on his podcast every single week. And we have this massive platform right now that he can promote his own stuff and talk about his products, and it's incredible, like massive attention at a broad scale. And that's the process that I did. So it was random. It wasn't organized and structured. So if we're going to talk about a process, Jeremy, because I know that doing things on a systematized way, like with a sequence of steps and with a strategy, it does actually help you build something more for a long term. So what would you say about the process and how do you get started on it? Give us your feedback on this.
So I'll add one thing to what you just said, because that's a really, really great point. So like when I actually started my podcast back in 2015, it was not long after I had heard a podcast episode by Grant Cardone where he talked about like this content formula he had. He goes, you make it into a blog, you make that blog into a podcast, you make that into a YouTube video. And then he had all these other things he did with it. And I'm like, whoa, I'm really bad at writing blogs because I'm an academic writer. I could do a podcast. And that was kind of like where that fit in. So I totally agree with you. Like if you figure out how to use your content in the right way, you can do it so many different ways. But for me, I think it's really, really important, like if you are starting out with the intention of doing this as a podcast, and you kind of have a different format of it, which is repurposing content. But if you're starting out with a podcast, I really do recommend an interview show. And there's a couple different reasons for that. The one being positioning, right? You're going to be seen with people that are influential in your space and build your same influence at the same time. And also the other part of that people don't think about is networking, right? You're spending time with people that otherwise wouldn't give you the time of day because you have a platform. And I think that's really, really important. So that's the first thing I want to say in starting out with. And when you do that, I always tell people, start out with a list of the top 100 people you most admire and, you know, people that are really influential in your space. And people are like, oh my gosh, I can't do 100. So here's a hack to that. And that's when you go on Amazon and you look for people that have written books on your topic. And you're going to find people that are much more reachable and are going to help you kind of get those first few episodes in. But you really want to start with a big list of people you're reaching out to because you're going to have a lot of no's. Like for me, the first person I reached out to was 𝗟𝗘𝗥𝗡, and he's like, hey man, congratulations. He actually answered me. And he's like, when you get to 400 episodes, let me know and we'll do it. So when I got to 390, I let him know and he was episode 400. But it's really, really important to kind of think big and have a big list because you're going to get some no's. So that's kind of part one. The other part to it is, I love that you mentioned Anchor because I always used to recommend Libsyn to people because it is a great platform, but not everybody has the budget, you know, starting out to do that. And Anchor has gotten really good in the last probably I'd say 6 months to a year. They've really taken advantage of like things have been kind of weird because of COVID, and they've really made their platform better. So I really recommend Anchor to people because you can start for free, and it kind of lets you get your content out there because hosting is something you need. And people always ask me like, I don't get it. What is hosting? And when you buy hosting for your podcast, it's a place to basically put all your files so it goes out to all these different places. Like you don't actually send it to iTunes. You don't actually send it to Spotify. You need a hosting account to hold your files. So that's kind of the next part of that.
Right.
In terms of
that's a good point right there, right? So like
people get really confused on it. That's why I always bring it up.
Right, it's being hosted in one particular location, so
Right.
it never goes there. Basically, Apple
Correct.
comes and gets access to it.
Yes.
Right. Google gets access to it. Spotify
Yeah.
gets access to it. All these guys get access to it, but it's being hosted in one place.